The time is 6:15. Here is the news, edited by Dilini Gunawardana, read by Victor Raj. Here are the headlines of the local news. The President stresses the commitment of the government to combat crime. Law will be strictly enforced against human trafficking. Inaugural IORA business conclave is to kick off under Sri Lanka's chairmanship. Sri Lanka's Supreme Court registry officials undergo a special training in India. Exams chief says that 2 free marks will be given for science paper part 1 of the GCE ordinary level examination. Foreign news: Hezbollah chief meets Hamas delegation in Beirut. Sports news: cricket. Wanindu and Shakib regain top spot in ICC T20 International All-Rounder rankings. Local news in detail. President Ranil Wickremesinghe has highlighted the government's efforts to enact numerous new laws aimed at apprehending criminals over the past 2 years. He made these observations during the inauguration of the new court complex in Teldinia today. President Wickremesinghe also highlighted the government's achievement of implementing 75 new laws in the past 2 years, emphasizing that this initiative has positioned Sri Lanka as the sole country in South Asia with a modern legal system. He further added that the government remains steadfast in its commitment to combating crime and ensuring justice, despite facing accusations of shielding wrongdoers. State Minister for Defence Pramita Bandarathenakone emphasized stringent enforcement of the law against individuals involved in human trafficking. He highlighted that severe penalties would be imposed on those found guilty, regardless of their social status and standing. Additionally, the State Minister revealed that a group of suspects, including a retired senior military officer, has been arrested under the suspicion of participating in human trafficking. Allegedly, they employed retired army personnel as soldiers in the Russian-Ukraine war. Legal proceedings have commenced against them. The minister urged the public to remain vigilant against such manipulative tactics. The public is requested to contact 0112 401 146 if they have any information about human trafficking. Furthermore, it has been decided to extend salaries and allowances to soldiers who died in the war or suffered total disability while serving in the Civil Security Department beyond the age of 55. Under the leadership of the President, the government has addressed the challenges of individuals facing the termination of salaries or pensions after reaching 55 years of the age. Consequently, this benefit, previously limited to the armed forces, will now be extended to Civil Security Department officers as well. The respective cabinet paper will be submitted for approval in the near future. State Minister Thendakone made these remarks while addressing a media briefing at the Presidential Media Centre held today under the theme Collective Path to Stable Country. This news comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Continuing with more local news, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, under the chairmanship of the Indian Ocean Rim Association in collaboration with the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce, as the current chair of the IORA Business Forum, will be hosting the first business conclave under Sri Lanka's chairmanship of the IORA at the Shangri-La Hotel Colombo on the 28th to the 29th of May. The business conclave, under the theme of Sustaining Growth, Bridging Horizons, will focus on the key sectors of smart agriculture, ICT, logistics, tourism, renewable energy, and SME development and women's empowerment. The forum is expected to provide an opportunity for leaders of industry to develop strong economic partnerships and connections across the member states of IORA. Participants are expected to gain greater exposure to diverse business and investment prospects to build synergies with their counterparts from the 23rd IORA countries and 12 dialogue partner countries who will be represented by their trade delegations. The business conclave precedes the IORA 26th Committee of Senior Officers meeting scheduled for 30th and 31st May 2024. A group of registry officials of the Sri Lanka Supreme Court have undergone training at the Supreme Court of India. According to the Indian High Commission in Sri Lanka, a delegation consisting of 15 officials of the Sri Lankan Supreme Court completed a 4-day training program from the 9th to the 13th of May. During the program, the delegates were introduced to the technological and the digital transformation of the Supreme Court of India, including the court's project library and court processes such as filing, listing, scrutiny, scanning and record keeping. The senior registrars from the registry explained to the delegates the nuances of the same and demonstrated the systems with enhanced transparency, efficiency and accessibility. The Indian High Commission said this initiative is a testament to the strong bilateral relationship and mutual commitment to judicial excellence and technological innovation between India and Sri Lanka. The Maliga Kanda Magistrates Court has issued an order on several trade union leaders of the JVP and others over a protest march planned to Colombo this evening. Accordingly, the court ordered prevents K.D. Lalkant, Mahinda Jayasinghe, Ranjan Jayalal and other protesters from inconveniencing the public or pedestrians along several major roads in Colombo, including Deans Road, TV Chayamouth, Technical Junction and Ibanbala Junction. The order has been issued by the Maliga Kanda Magistrate after considering a request made by the officer in charge of the Maradana Police Station today. That ends local news.
The main news story is brought to you by Sinhala Mahatmya.
State Minister of Defence Pramitha Bandara Tendakon said Sri Lanka is currently in talks with India to set up a small arms manufacturing unit. State Minister Tendakon told the media today that Sri Lanka was in the process of discussing a joint venture on the military and defence industry with India. Acknowledging that the Sri Lankan military has the expertise for manufacturing weapons, he said Sri Lanka must look into entering the manufacturing industry. That ends main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Sinhala Mahatmya.
Moving on to Watchlight, the Commissioner General of Examination says that a decision has been taken to award 1 free mark each for questions number 9 and 39 of the 2023 GCE Ordinary Level Examination Science Paper 1 following the complaints received. That came to you on Watchlight. Moving on to world news, let's take a look at the headlines. Hezbollah chief meets a Hamas delegation in Beirut. An unprecedented manhunt is underway for an escaped prisoner in France. End of Lee era for Singapore as the Premier steps down. World news in detail. Hezbollah chief Hassan Nasrallah has met a senior Hamas delegation in Beirut, according to a report. Reuters report the Hamas delegation is led by Khalil al-Hayya, the group's deputy head in Gaza. It also included Mohammed Nazr, a member of the Hamas Political Bureau, and Osama Hamdan, a senior Lebanon-based spokesperson for the group. During their meeting, parties held an in-depth assessment of the latest developments in Gaza and discussed the status of stalled ceasefire negotiations, said the report, adding that they emphasized their shared commitment towards achieving victory regardless of the sacrifices. An unprecedented manhunt is taking place in northern France for a prisoner who escaped during a deadly ambush. Mohamed Ambra, known as The Fly, was being taken back to jail from a court in Normandy on Tuesday when a car rammed his present van at a toll booth. Armed men then opened fire on the vehicles, killing 2 officers and seriously injuring 3 others. French Interior Minister Gerald Darmanin said all means are being used to find these criminals. Singapore's long-served Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong is stepping down, making the end of the political era for the nation. After 20 years in power, Mr. Lee will formally hand over the reins to Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister Lawrence Wong on Wednesday night. Since becoming an independent nation in 1965, Singapore has only had 3 prime ministers. Analysts say the transition signals an evolution in Singapore's political leadership as it moves out of the shadow of the Lee family. Even though Mr. Lee will remain in cabinet as a senior minister, in his final interview as Prime Minister, he thanked Singaporeans for their support. To wrap up the world news, let's take a look at the headlines. Hezbollah chief meets Hamas delegation in Beirut. An unprecedented manhunt is underway for an escaped prisoner in France. End of Lee era for Singapore as the Premier steps down. That ends World News.
Development News.
Minister Bandula Gunawardena said that Sri Lanka will allow consumers to build renewable power plants and use the Ceylon Electricity Board transmission network to carry it to a different location to be utilized. So-called wheeling was not allowed in Sri Lanka, and a company that built a power plant that to sell the power to the Ceylon Electricity Board at the feed-in price and buy power separately as a customer at a retail tariff. Wheeling allows customer to carry the power from a new renewable plant by paying a fee to the transmission network. That came to you on Development News.
Moving on with sports news.
Cricket news. 2 stars of the game are tied at the top of the T20 all-rounder rankings with a little more than a fortnight until the commencement of the T20 World Cup. Just 23 rating points separated the top 5 players on the updated list for T20 internationals. All-rounders with Bangladesh veteran Shakib Al-Hasan joined by Sri Lankan captain Wanindu Hasaranga in the top spot with just over a fortnight to the start of the T20 World Cup. Shakib drops 3 rating points following 2 appearances at the back end of the Bangladesh recent 5-match T20 international series against Zimbabwe, with Hasaranga joining the veterans in the share of the top spot and Afghanistan's Mohammad Nabi just a further 10 rating point adrift. Zimbabwe's Sikandar Raza gains 2 places to rise to 4th on the back of some strong performances against Bangladesh, while South Africa's Aiden Markram loses 1 spot to drop to the 5th. That came to you on Sports News.
Go ekak tiyana youth eකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු ගීත හැබැයි කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all-new NSB Ithru Mithru account. NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Lofts International Private Limited recently received the prestigious Airman Service Excellence Award for the 2nd consecutive year, presented by the Airman Japan, a globally recognized brand in power generators. The award underscores Lofts International's unwavering commitment to excellence in delivering unparalleled service and technical support to its diverse customers. That ends Business News. Moving on to economic news. State Minister for Finance has called for a report to identify people who did not collect the free rice given by the government, hoping this would help identify fraudulent beneficiaries of the Aswasama welfare scheme. The relevant report is being prepared by the Development Finance Department of the Minister of Finance. The Minister said that he will receive the report by next week. That ends economic news.
Weather report.
The Met Department predicts that showery condition will continue further due to the low-level atmospheric disturbance in the vicinity of Sri Lanka. Showers or thunder showers will occur at several places in most provinces of the island after 1 p.m. Heavy showers about 100 mm are likely to some places in the western, central, Sabaragamu and eastern provinces. Showers may occur in the western and southern coastal areas during the morning. That ends the weather report. To wrap up the evening news on Radio Sri Lanka, let's take a look at the headlines once again. The President stresses the commitment of the government to combat crime. Law will be strictly enforced against human trafficking. Inaugural IORA Business Conclave is to kick off under Sri Lanka's chairmanship. Sri Lanka's Supreme Court registry officials undergo a special training in India. Exams chief says that 2 free marks will be given for science paper part 1 of the O-level examination. Foreign news: Hezbollah chief meets Hamas delegation in Beirut. Sports news: cricket, Wanindu and Shakib regain top spot in ICC T20 International all-rounder rankings. With that, we wrap up the evening news on Radio Sri Lanka. Back to my good friend US Ramesh Pirish.